covered dozens of true crime cases over the years, but nothing prepared me for the case of Lori Vallow. As I dug through court documents and witness statements, one question kept haunting me. How does someone go from posting loving family photos to seeing those same children as possessed entities that needed to be eliminated? The transformation wasn't sudden. It happened in small, escalating steps that, when pieced together, reveal a pattern we should all recognize. By the time you finish this video, you'll see exactly how religious manipulation combined with personal ambition can turn deadly, and why this case matters to anyone who has ever wondered how ordinary people commit extraordinary evil. The transformation of Lori Vallow didn't happen overnight. Friends who knew her in 2015 paint a picture of a woman who appeared to be the embodiment of maternal devotion. Her friend April Raymond, who met Lori in Hawaii, couldn't reconcile the woman she knew with the monster who would later emerge. I'm not sure what hijacked that priority. April would later say, struggling to understand how someone once considered Mother of the Year could change so drastically. Back then, Lori seemed to have it all: the beauty queen looks, a happy marriage to Charles Vallow, and a loving relationship with her daughter Tylee and adopted son JJ. What many found remarkable was her patience with JJ, who required extra care due to his autism diagnosis. Friends noted how attentive and caring she was, never showing signs of the darkness that would later consume her. But beneath the surface of this picture-perfect family life, something was beginning to shift. In 2017, Lori encountered the teachings of Chad Daybell, a doomsday author whose apocalyptic writings would become her new gospel. The following year, at a religious conference, their paths crossed in person. What happened next would set in motion a chain of events leading to unimaginable tragedy. Chad told Lori something that resonated deeply within her fragile psyche. They had been married in a previous life. This revelation, despite both being married to other people at the time, sparked an immediate connection. Their affair began shortly after, but it wasn't just a physical relationship. Chad was systematically rewiring Lori's entire belief system. The cornerstone of these new beliefs centered around the concept of light and dark spirits, a dangerous binary worldview that would later justify horrific actions. Lori became convinced she was among the chosen, destined to lead the 144,000 inches faithful after the coming apocalypse. More disturbing was her growing belief that part of this divine mission involved identifying and eliminating what she called dark spirits. This belief system didn't remain theoretical for long. Witnesses would later testify about Lori conducting casting ceremonies designed to exorcise these perceived demonic entities. Her friend Zulema Pastines described these rituals as involving intensive prayer and fasting, explaining how Lori believed certain spirits could only be banished through these specific ceremonies. Charles Vallow was one of the first to recognize the dangerous path Lori was traveling. So spooked by her increasingly bizarre behavior, including claims about a demon named Ned living inside him, he contacted police. Body cam footage captured his chilling words. "She threatened to murder me. Kill me. Threatened to murder you." Yes. His fear, as events would later prove, was entirely justified. As Lori descended further into this twisted ideology, she began categorizing everyone in her life. No one was exempt from her judgments, not even her children. In a devastating development, she began referring to her teenage daughter Tylee as possessing a dark spirit that needed to be eliminated as part of her divine mission. Perhaps most disturbing was Lori's friend Melanie Gibbs' testimony about JJ, Lori's adopted son. According to Melanie, Lori had begun calling JJ a zombie, a term with deadly implications in their belief system. In their warped theology, A zombie wasn't the Hollywood version, but rather a body whose original spirit had been displaced by a dark entity. The only way to free these souls, according to their beliefs, was through death. Behind the spiritual veil of light and dark entities lay something far more mundane, a trail of insurance policies and bank accounts that tell a different story about Lori's motivations. While she spoke of demons and divine missions, prosecutors would eventually uncover a pattern suggesting the oldest motive in the criminal playbook: money. In early 2019, as Lori's bizarre behavior intensified, her husband Charles Vallow made a fateful decision. Worried about her increasingly erratic actions, he changed the beneficiary of his $1 million life insurance policy from Lori to his sister Kay Woodcock. This seemingly administrative change would later take on sinister significance when examining the timeline of events that followed. Just months later, on July 11, 2019, Charles Vallow was dead, shot by Lori's brother, Alex Cox, during what was described as a confrontation at Lori's home. Cox claimed self-defense, a convenient explanation that initially prevented deeper scrutiny. But the gunshots that ended Charles' life also severed Lori's access to $1 million payout she had been counting on. The financial disappointment was profound. In text messages later recovered by investigators, Lori confided in Chad about the life insurance policy change, writing that it felt like a spear through my heart. These messages, sent between conspirators who believed they were communicating privately, offered a glimpse behind the spiritual facade, revealing that despite all her talk of apocalyptic missions, Lori was acutely concerned with earthly finances. Even after her children vanished, Lori's financial maneuvering continued. She kept collecting Social Security benefits meant for JJ and Tylee, depositing government checks for children she knew were no longer alive. This calculated action required maintaining the illusion they were still with relatives or away at school, a fiction she maintained even as police began asking questions. Prosecutor Lindsay Blake would later cut through the supernatural smokescreen during trial, arguing that Lori's true motivations were far more basic: money, power, and sex. Blake told jurors that for Lori, if it was a person, it didn't matter who. They were simply obstacles to remove on her path to getting what she wanted. The religious framework provided the perfect justification, but beneath it all was a woman willing to eliminate anyone who stood in her way. Perhaps most telling was how Lori manipulated those around her, particularly her brother Alex Cox. Family members would later reveal that Alex expressed feelings of being set up as the fall guy for the events surrounding the children's disappearance and deaths. Yet he remained loyal until his own mysterious death in December 2019. Another convenient development that removed a potential witness who could have implicated Lori. The master manipulator had a pattern: use people, remove obstacles, collect financial benefits, and couch it all in righteous religious language that made the unthinkable seem divinely justified. The doomsday beliefs weren't just delusions, they were the perfect cover story for a woman who had discovered that apocalyptic prophecies could be weaponized to serve very worldly desires. The calculated financial schemes gave way to something far more chilling: the final moments when two innocent children vanished forever. As fall 2019 arrived, no one could have known that the smiling faces captured in family photos would soon become evidence in a murder investigation. On September 8, 2019, Tylee Ryan was photographed at Yellowstone National Park, her last confirmed sighting alive. 2 weeks later, on September 22nd, little JJ was seen in his red pajamas, innocently unaware that within hours his life would be extinguished by those meant to protect him. What happened next would only emerge through witness testimony and forensic evidence. Melanie Gibb, a friend close to Lori, provided a crucial account of JJ's final night. She testified she saw Alex Cox take JJ upstairs that evening, but by morning, the little boy had vanished without explanation. When questioned, both Lori and Alex offered the same disturbing justification. They believed JJ had become a zombie, a soulless vessel inhabited by a dark spirit that needed to be destroyed. When authorities began investigating the children's disappearance, Lori constructed an elaborate web of deception. She boldly claimed to police that JJ was safe with a friend in Arizona, a lie that quickly unraveled. As investigators pressed for answers, Lori refused to cooperate, maintaining a chilling indifference to the whereabouts of her own children while continuing to collect their Social Security benefits. Meanwhile, Lori's personal life continued uninterrupted by any apparent grief or concern. Following the suspicious death of Chad Daybell's wife, Tammy, Lori and Chad wasted no time in formalizing their relationship. Just 17 days after Tammy's passing, they exchanged vows on a Hawaiian beach, celebrating their union while the investigation into the missing children intensified back on the mainland. The truth remained buried, literally, until June 2020, when investigators made the grim discovery that confirmed everyone's worst fears. On Chad Daybell's property, in an area designated as a pet cemetery, they uncovered Tylee's remains. The young woman's body had been burned and dismembered, making determination of her exact cause of death nearly impossible. Nearby, they found JJ's body, bound in duct tape, his small frame still dressed in red pajamas. The forensic evidence told a story of calculated brutality. JJ died of asphyxiation, with a plastic bag placed over his head and duct tape wrapped tightly around his mouth. This method wasn't random meme, it perfectly aligned with Lori and Chad's twisted beliefs about preventing demons from escaping or entering bodies. The sealing of orifices was consistent with their ritualistic approach to dealing with those they had labeled as zombies. Perhaps most damning was the physical evidence linking Lori directly to the crime. A single strand of her hair was found embedded in the duct tape wrapped around JJ's body, silent testimony to her presence during the final moments of her son's life. Cell phone data further corroborated the timeline, placing Alex Cox at specific locations on Chad's property, precisely where the children's remains would later be discovered. In May 2023, swift justice arrived for JJ and Tylee. The jury deliberated for just 7 hours before returning with their verdict. Lori Vallow guilty on all counts of first-degree murder. The courtroom fell silent as the judgment echoed through the halls of justice, finally giving voice to children who could no longer speak for themselves. JJ's grandparents, Larry and Kay Woodcock, addressed the media with tears streaming down their faces. "My heart hurts for these three," they said, gesturing to photos of the victims. "This is what this has been all about. Why Lori? Why power, sex, and greed?" Their words captured the senselessness of it all. Lives full of promise extinguished for nothing more than a mother's twisted desires. The verdict brings legal closure, but cannot resurrect shattered innocence. Lori's transformation serves as a grim warning about how unchecked extremism can corrupt even the most sacred bond between mother and child. In the end, no doomsday prophecy came true, except the one Lori herself fulfilled by bringing apocalyptic devastation to her own family.